Hello, my name is Ann Dawson, and I am publishing this video in January of 2020. Happy New Year! With any change from one year to the next, people tend to like looking back at the past year while looking with anticipation towards the new one. And since it's the change of a decade, it seems all the more important. As people look forward to the new year and make their predictions on what's gonna happen, a lot of people are starting to feel a sense of dread. Dread coming from looking back at the past. It's the 20s. And at first glance, things would appear similar to the 20s of a century ago, which would indicate that a Great Depression and World War are soon on their way. Of course, this thinking is predicated on the answer to a very important question. Does history repeat itself?
Does history repeat itself? There are two ways to tackle this question. We can answer it literally, or we can answer it in a way that actually matters. Literally, no, exact events do not reoccur. But, does history rhyme? I don't know. Let's ponder. Nature does create patterns, and humans are programmed to identify the patterns nature makes. What's more is that humans are a part of nature, and are themselves products of, victims of, and creators of patterns. Therefore, it is not unreasonable to expect that history, the study of our past affairs, would reveal some natural patterns about ourselves. And if we were able to study those patterns, we might even be able to predict our future, or identify where our modern period fits into the cycles of history, or figure out ways in which we can break free from those historic cycles. Often, the idea of history repeating itself is used in such a way as to encourage people to study history, in the hopes that an education in history will allow people to identify similarities to the past and encourage them to work towards a better future. The idea of history repeating itself goes hand in hand with the phrase, "Those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it." This is a statement of immense political importance. Ask, what doom awaits us? Ask, what mistakes will lead us to that doom? The answers to those questions will be dependent on the individual's ideology. The doom could be the Holocaust, the mistake being allowing fascism to rise. The doom could be the end of the white race, the mistake being allowing other races to exist. Or the doom could be an Orwellian state, the mistake being allowing communism to rise. The doom could be inescapable poverty, the mistake being allowing capitalism to continue. Or the doom could be the eternal damnation of humankind to the fiery pits of hell, the mistake being not obeying the teachings of the Lord, God. A and B are variables set by the whims of ideology. The idea that history repeats itself is an idea that can be used to support pretty much anything. You learned about it when you learned about the concepts of cause and effect. It's no more philosophically profound than that.
Water drips from the leaf of a tree into a pond. The drips will stop when the tree is dry, but it will rain again, and the drips will continue. Drip, 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 until a large rock smashes into the earth, cracking it open and spreading its material across the cosmos.
I don't know, shit happens.
With the awesome infinity of space and time, this material could then reform into a new planet. Even one with life and trees and ponds for drips of water to fall into, over and over again.
It's unlikely, but it could happen. But who cares? Well, everybody. With the infinity of space and time, sure, history does rhyme. Hell, maybe it can even literally repeat itself exactly. Infinity is such that anything is possible. I guess there is the heat death of the universe, but we're only human. What the fuck do we know? What I know is that this is a useless point. What would it matter if history repeats itself on a scale as immeasurable as the universe? Not a whole lot. Not to me, anyway. It speaks to theories of predestination, where everything that has happened or will happen has already been predetermined by an almighty God at the beginning of the universe's creation. Or, to put it in a less Christian way, everything that will happen has already happened. All that's left for us to do is to make it happen, which, again, is useless, because Even if it's true, we have no choice but to continue going on about our lives, performing our actions as if the opposite were true. Nothing really comes as a thought. It doesn't change anything. And such an answer is probably not why you came to this video. Such is the realization that this question, does history repeat itself, is of no value other than for the politics and propaganda of the here and now. So, let's answer the question in a way that actually matters. You can make history do whatever the fuck you want it to do. You can make it repeat, if you like, or you can make it full of incredibly unique events that no one in their right mind would ever think are comparable. You can do this because history was invented. It was invented to suit the needs of inquisitive humans looking back at their past. It was invented as a way of interpreting those past events. What I'm saying might sound similar to how some will ponder, time isn't real, humans invented it. But what they really mean to say is that clocks and human measurements of time were invented. However, time absolutely is real. So be clear, when I say history is an invention, I'm not saying that the past isn't real, nor am I saying that historians just make stuff up. What I am saying is that our perception of reality will always be flawed due to our limited human experience. This is true when it comes to our perceptions of the past, which are constructed by the invention of history. What I'm trying to say is that while the past definitely happened, and history allows us to have fairly accurate accounts of what happened, what we do with history is up to us in the here and now. History, even in our modern day, is just us telling stories to each other. Stories that can fit a political narrative if we so want them to. You can compare the United States of America to the Roman Republic if you are concerned about America going the way of the Roman Republic by turning into an American empire. You can compare the United States of America to the Roman Empire if you are concerned about maintaining that empire. You can compare the United States of America to Wiemar Germany if you are concerned about rising fascism within the United States. You can compare the United States of today to the United States of the 1860s if you are concerned about the potential of a second American Civil War. You can compare the United States of the 2020s to the United States of the 1920s if you are concerned about the potential of a Great Depression. I know I'm fucking depressed. However, you could also say that the United States of America bears no resemblance to Rome due to the vast differences in population, production, logistics capabilities, and technology. Rome never had the ability to destroy the world, nor did it ever have opponents that were equally able to destroy the world. Those aspects don't really fit nicely in with that story, do they? Are they enough to stop the repetitions of history? Is it enough to save America from falling into empire? America is already an empire. So, it has already fallen to tyranny. Well, it's kind of always been an empire. So it didn't really fall into empire, it's more that it was always designed to be that way. Okay, but will it fall like the Roman Empire fell? Well, it will probably fall, but it won't fall like Rome did, because the conditions of the two empires are totally different. American Empire doesn't even function the same way as Roman Empire, and so obviously its collapse is going to happen in a different way based on those conditions. My guess is that American Empire will collapse when global capitalism collapses, since they're kind of intrinsically tied together. But that's just my guess. Who knows? It could happen tomorrow. What about Wiemar Germany and the rise of fascism? Will fascism rise in the United States of America? Well, it has been rising, and in fact it's already here. If they do manage to take full control of power, though, it will not be the Nazis. It'll be American fascists who take power in an American way. It's an important thing to distinguish that when the fascists take power, it's not going to look like a Nazi America. It's going to look like America. Well, what about the lead up to the Civil War? Now that is something that is very much unlike anything we are experiencing today. The stresses that led up to the American Civil War were stresses within government and between ruling classes. It was a war between states, and so it was relatively clean geographically speaking. A civil war today would be the result of revolutionary movements, right-wing militia uprisings, religious fanaticism, and a ruling class desperately trying to maintain control within a whirlwind of chaos. It would be a big, huge mess. It would look more like the Syrian Civil War than it would look like the American Civil War of the 1860s. That is, if it even happens at all. Again, the conditions we're experiencing today are fundamentally different than the conditions that led up to the American Civil War. What about the inevitability of a second Great Depression? Well, is that really history repeating itself, or is that simply the manifestation of the flawed capitalist system which creates boom and bust cycles? It's not even really a flaw, it's a feature that will hopefully one day lead to its end. It's not really history repeating itself so much as this is a deliberate design, which my ultimate point is that history does not repeat unless you want it to repeat. The capitalists seem to want it to repeat, so it looks like it's gonna happen. Doesn't have to, but that's where we're going. But it's important to note that if it does happen, it won't be the result of a natural historic cycle, it'll be the result of dedicated human effort. Let's suppose for a moment that some dedicated revolutionaries managed to overthrow capitalism. Would a Great Depression still occur? No, because capitalism doesn't exist in that scenario. There is no boom-bust cycle to rise and fall in. Again, history is what we make of it. It'll repeat if you want it to, and it won't if you don't want it to. A Great Depression and its subsequent misery won't happen if you don't let it. So no, history does not repeat itself. Its apparent repetitions are due to the stories we tell in hopes of reinforcing traditions and morals. Those traditions and morals could be things like never forget and fuck fascists. Just the same, they could be never forget and fuck capitalists, and all the more often it is becoming never forget and fuck communists. So what am I trying to say? Am I saying fuck everybody? No. My thoughts are thus. Fuck the fascists, fuck the capitalists. Communists are great. There is no radical centrism here on this channel. I am a leftist, and if that doesn't show through my work, then I am doing something wrong. I like stories, and I like history. An evidence-based story is a fun angle, but that's all history has ever really been for me, is fun. I would never consider myself to be a historian. What I am, though, is something of a propagandist. Not a very good one, because propaganda is a bad propaganda word, but that is what I am, that is what this channel is, that is what I do. And as a propagandist, I believe I can see history as what it is. A story with intentions. A tool of the trade. History repeating itself is a story that is being told. A story that is being told in the hopes that it will have an effect on the listener. With that in mind, I am concerned about the consequences of the story. I'm worried about what effects it might have. So, what effects does this one-sentence story have? History repeats itself is a statement that asserts nothing new can happen. If it's true, humanity is damned to make the same mistake over and over again. It doesn't matter how much history you learn, humanity is cursed to go in circles. Forever. It is a statement of immense hopelessness. It is a statement that insists what we have now is the best we can ever hope to have, because it is all that is possible. So hey, get used to it. Things are the way they are, and they are this way because they're supposed to be. Capitalists are in charge right now simply because we're at that part of the cycle. They might be replaced down the road by the fascists, the capitalist defense mechanism. But then the capitalists will regain control, then the fascists, then the capitalists, then the fascists, then the capitalists, forever and ever. I mean, hey, just look at history. Empires rise and fall and rise and fall and rise and fall, as do the markets, the tides, and the sun. Capitalism is just human nature. It is inescapable. Agency and free will, they don't actually exist. Now, as a leftist, I cannot believe that. Luckily for me, I don't have to, because, as I've just pointed out through the entirety of this video essay, it's not true. It's just a story. a story designed to keep the children from misbehaving. Empires rise and fall, but they wouldn't if we did not raise empires. Markets fall, but they wouldn't if we did away with markets. The tides would not exist without the ocean, and the sun would not rise if there was no earth. If a rock were to smash into the earth and scatter its material across the cosmos, then from our human perspective, the perspective that matters to us humans, that would be something quite new. What lies at the end of capitalism and its pursuit of infinite growth is something quite new. Human-made climate change. The climate doesn't have to change, but it has, and it will continue to do so, and it will continue to do so because of us humans. Us humans who will allow capitalism to continue. Some enthusiastically, some begrudgingly. But regardless of your ideology, capitalism is the law of the day, and it is taking us somewhere new. Namely, hell, what historical precedence is there for human-made climate change on a global scale? There isn't. What part in the historic cycles does this play? None. The climate has changed before, but not like this, and not because of this. And since we have no historical precedents to look back on, we have no real way of using history to determine a solution. What lessons from history could we have learned to keep us from making this mistake? None. It's a whole new mistake. A whole new mistake that's going to require wholly new solutions. History does not repeat itself. New shit happened, and new shit will continue to happen. Ironically, as it has always been. This is not to say that history is useless or wrong, but this notion of history repeating itself is useless and wrong. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, and despite its best wishes, it will take us to a new era in history. The end. History cannot be used to predict the future. The solutions to our modern problems are not found in the past. The past is how we got here. The past is how we got these modern problems. History can be used to contextualize the present or provide inspiration, but it is up to us in the present to make the future. We don't have to let capitalism continue, nor do we all have to die underneath an unforgiving sky of smog. We can overthrow capitalism, and we can work to prevent further environmental collapse. We can do these things because nothing in this world has to be. Capitalism does not have to be. Human-made climate change does not have to be. Do not be fooled, though. Similarly, the overthrow of capitalism does not have to happen, and the continued existence of humanity does not have to be. Nothing has to be. But I know what I want to be, and I will work to make it be. And if enough people do the same, then that is what will be.
With all that said, let's consider the secondary statement. Those who don't study history are doomed to repeat it. Its effect as propaganda is to encourage people to study history in an attempt to alter history's direction. My concern with this is that it hinges on the affected party internalizing historic cycles and only studying history to identify periods in time in which history seems to repeat itself. The words doomed to repeat it hang in the air a lot more than the words study history. While the full statement does disprove the notion of history repeating itself, because if all it takes for history to not repeat itself is to study history, then obviously history doesn't repeat itself. It does, however, depend on the affected parties believing that history repeats itself, which results in defeatism when people think they cannot escape the cycles of history, or it results in comfort when people think historical forces are moving in a direction they desire. In which case, these defeated or comfortable people remove themselves from the historical question by ceasing to be historical actors. And if enough people do this, then the ruling class is able to do pretty much whatever it wants, as they are practically unopposed. For example, a lot of people on the left seem to believe that revolution is inevitable under certain conditions. They rest assured with this knowledge, and so don't really do a whole lot to build the revolution. Consequently, the revolution does not happen, and if a revolution does happen, It's not of a leftist character because leftists did not build it. So please, be a historical actor. Act. Do not surrender to the cycles of history. They do not exist. History does not make us. History is what we make of it. And so is the future. Congratulations, viewer! You have reached the end of the video. This is the shoutout zone, which is, according to the analytics on YouTube, the place where most people stop watching, which is a damn shame because you should be spreading the bread and watching other amazing YouTube content creators, such as Transnational, who created a video called Power and Struggle, a Leftist Analysis of Lord of the Rings. What does the Lord of the Rings have to do with the super rich and philanthropy? Watch the video to find out. There is also How Capitalism Became Synonymous with Freedom by Historical Sense. How did capitalists accomplish such a grand propagandic feat? Last but certainly not least is Kelly Zahos's Is That All There Is to Burning the World? It's a theatrical and emotional look at tourism and its implications. It's a truly amazing video, and she is an amazing creator, so why this video has only 2,000 views is an example of the lack of merit-based success in our society. And of course, a special thank you to fellow creators Alki, Historical Sense, hey, and River Ransom, who helped me with this video by looking over its early draft. Thank you. And one extra, very special shout out to my lovely wife, Deanne. She has a channel of her own called Digital Diviner, where she talks about various things on her mind through the use of tarot cards. Her first episode is called Black Hair and talks about the past, present, and future of black hair care. Does that sound interesting to you? Well, it should, because it is very interesting. Check it out. She will also have another video coming soon about sleep. So yeah, check her out. And thank you for watching. Have a wonderful day.